I've coached many hockey players at the professional level, at the AHL level, in Europe, in the ECHL, in Division 1, and many high-level junior leagues. And pretty much every player that I talk to is trying to figure out, how do I balance being offensive with handling the role that my coach has currently given me? Now, when we think about transitioning and becoming an offensive player, it's not an easy transition. And I recently had a pro player of mine who's playing in the AHL try to understand how to balance this. He was trying to figure out, what does it look like for me to effectively play more offensively, but also maintain my current role? And what he found out really quickly is that if you try to jump to a different role, and a role that's not suited for you or that your coach doesn't need, it can really screw up how your coach sees you, how your coach labels you. So we're going to break that down in this video in detail and help you understand how to do this at the highest levels, how to handle, how do I become a shooter, how do I play more offensively, and how do I still do the things my coach needs me to do. So let's first of all get something straight. Being a shooter doesn't mean you just shoot the puck every time you get it. It doesn't mean being an insanely high-risk player, but it means being somebody who has a tendency to shoot the puck more. And being a shooter doesn't also mean that you're constantly trying to create offense at all times. There are different versions of this. There's different ways to play this archetype. So it's essential to understand what your role is on your team. It's essential to understand what your coach expects of you. You have to understand, what is my job on this team? Because what your coach is going to be looking for is somebody who can do what the team needs to do. Your coach's job is to try to win. And so what he's trying to figure out is, can you handle the expectation he puts on you? Can you handle it? Are you going to actually do what he says he needs you to do? And I really love this quote. The coach's job is trying to find somebody to replace you. And the player's job is to be so good that he makes it impossible for the coach to do that. And so you have to think about, what role do I fulfill on this team, and how can I become somebody who can't be replaced? Well, you do that by understanding the difference between identity and role. So let's break this down. So identity is really who you are as a player. It's your ability, and it's the thing you're constantly expanding. The identity is like a personality. You're not just set in one way, but your personality develops and grows. And you'll hear people try to tell you, oh, personality is a stagnant thing. It's something that lasts forever. Not true. Habits really form what your personality is. And so if you want to be somebody who changes how you act, it changes your personality overall, you can shift it. You just have to shift how you think, how you feel, and how you act consistently, and your personality is changed. Now, of course, some traits may stay, some things may stay for longer, but fundamentally as a hockey player, we want to start to look at, okay, what parts of my game are stable? What parts of my game do I consistently do? And ask yourself, do these traits align well with the role I've been given? Because if they don't, then the problem you're going to run into is your coach is going to be trying to replace you with somebody who has the right traits, fits the bill to play the style they need you to play. Now, to go back and define what role really is, your role is really what your coach needs from you right now within the team structure. It's about generating certain results and playing the best way to help the team win. It has to support the team strategy. And so the key nuance here is that as a player, you have to balance the fact that you're always trying to improve your identity, but at the same time, you're trying to fulfill the role your coach needs you to play. And now when you're trying to become a shooter, you're trying to become somebody who plays more offensive, you're probably not thinking too much about, well, what's my role? And that's why I want you to think about this more before you simply just say, oh, I want to be more offensive. Because right now, if your coach isn't putting you on the ice to be a shooter, first of all, well, then you can't just suddenly change who you are, change your habits and your patterns, and expect that your coach is going to say, oh, no worries, not an issue. You need to start to look at, well, what about my game is working? What about my game does my coach actually trust right now? Because if you can figure out what your coach trusts, and you can step into that style, and you can own that space for him, he's going to label you as a certain type of player. And so when I say label, what I really mean is he's going to naturally say, okay, you're an offensive Kucherov style. You're a really good two-way center like Bergeron. You're a small, fast, pretty good two-way center, kind of like Braden Point. They'll start to label you, and when a coach gives you a label, that label is basically it's assigning you a set of different traits, and those traits really break down into just habits you do on the ice. And so when teams are building and trying to create a set of players, they're trying to pick okay, they're looking at players who have certain assets like physical attributes. So those are things that you can physically build and you can work on. Of course, if you're not tall, of course, you have to build like strength, speed, power, conditioning, durability, be somebody who can hit. But even those things like hitting, for example, or having a great shot, a lot of times those are things that are able to be built. You can build on those things too. You can build so much of your game and develop these assets. And when coaches are trying to put together teams, that's what they're thinking. Now, if you're a younger player listening to this, of course, it's not the same thing. And sometimes I have parents who listen to the podcast or watch these videos. They come to me and say, well, this stuff isn't applicable. Like, you shouldn't play your role. Players should not worry about role. They should just play. Well, yeah, but that's not who I'm talking to in these videos. I'm talking to professional players. I'm talking to Division I players, D3 players, U Sports players, guys who are playing at the highest levels of junior, whether it's USHL, NAHL, BCHL, whether it's somebody in the OJ, AJ, the MJ, all these different leagues. I don't know which ones I left out, but regardless, point being is that I'm talking to people who, for you guys and for you who's listening, this podcast is about helping you figure out what are the nuances and details you need. And it doesn't really make sense to act as if role is not a thing. It doesn't really make sense to say, nah, we just play, just show up and play. Now, a big part of what I teach is that when you've done all the preparation work, when you understand these concepts, then yes, you can just show up to the rink and you can play. You can't just show up to the rink having not done this prep, not understanding how your role works, and then expect to just have confidence. You're not going to, because you didn't do the things you needed to do to play the style you need to play. And so if we dig deeper into the concept of labels and archetypes, there's a really key nuance here. And if you don't realize this, it's going to cause you to make a lot of mistakes in terms of what opportunities your coach gives you. And that's really what you're trying to do, right? Is you're trying to give yourself more opportunities. So the role your coach gives you is based on the label that he has for you. Now, the label he has for you is built on what they see you do. It's your behavior. It's your actions. And so if you want a coach to put you in certain positions and give you certain roles, give you certain opportunities, then you have to do something to earn that. It's not as simple as just saying, hopefully this works out, hoping that your coach notices something about you. You have to critically look at your game. You have to critically look at what parts of my game do I need to improve and work on. And here's the trick. You need to do the prep work before you get to practice. This is the stuff you need to do mental work on, is to prepare how do I want to act at practice? How do I want to actually, what do I want my body language to be? What do I want my communication to be? What little habits do I want to have before practice starts? What do I want to be doing when I get to the rink? What do I want to be doing off the ice? How do I want to treat my teammates? How do I want to treat my coaches? You want to develop all of these abilities. And one of the most recent concepts from one of my players that he just broke down, and I thought it was such a smart concept, is talking about the social ability component. Are you somebody who your teammates like? Do they see you as a leader? Do your coaches actually treat you as somebody who's a really big part of this team? And that comes from developing the ability to be social, to understand how to effectively act. And so if you want to expand what opportunities you're given, yes, of course, you need to work on your physical abilities, so your strength and conditioning. You need to work on your mechanical abilities, so how effectively you move on the ice. Do you move like a world-class player? That's stuff that's really important. Go work with somebody like Train 2.0 to really develop that skill set. But then you also have the mental side of the game. So are you developing your mental abilities? Are you confident? Are you getting into flow state consistently? Are you doing those things? Then you attack the hockey IQ. Are you making effective decisions? Are you taking in the right information? Are you scanning the ice effectively? And have you built those techniques? If you're doing all four of those things, well, then there's the other piece of, are you socially effective on your team? Do guys like you? Do they trust you? Do they want to play with you? And do you have the leadership aspect on that team where they see you as somebody who they want to put on the ice in big moments because you step up? And a lot of that comes from like mental skills that allow you to do that. But it's all kind of interrelated, and you need to kind of have those like 5 pillars all tied together. Now, we'll continue to dig into that in other topics or in other lessons. It's just so important to think about how you show up at the rink, who you are when you arrive at practice is what coaches are going to see. And then what you do in practice is going to further program you to perform in games a certain way. And so if you want to get a different label and be treated differently by your coaches, you have to do different things in preparation for practice before you get to the rink, before you get to practice. And most players are not doing this. But this is what's going to separate you. This is what's going to actually allow you to take control over who you are as a player. So many players come to me and say, Corson, I'm not playing the way I want. I'm not practicing the way I want, and I'm just not showing up with my game consistently. And so what I always tell them is do the prep work before you even get to practice. So your coach sees you doing the things that you need to do and then slowly starts to give you more opportunities, gives you an expanded role. And this is what it means to be expanding your identity. Expanding your identity happens away from your team. It does happen on your team, but it also happens away. It's all of the prep work and programming of your mind, building of your body, building of the skill sets and physical ability. It's the expansion of who you are as a player. And when you expand those things, you get new opportunities. When you get new opportunities, you typically will perform better because you've done all the prep work and you're good enough. You have the ability to do it. And this is why being confident and having the mental tools is so important, because you mentally have to be flexible to handle that change. You mentally have to be ready to make an adjustment when your coach says, hey, somebody's hurt. Hey, this guy's not playing well today. I need you to step into his role. And then you're ready to step into that role. And then you play well in that role, trust is earned, and you get the next opportunity. And so this is what's happening. And if you're a player who is a little bit younger, you're not somebody who's went into junior yet, this is what's going to happen when you get to junior. This is what you have to do. This is the key to being a successful junior player, a successful college player, a successful pro player. Now, I never played pro, but I can tell you from the professionals that I work with and the guys that I've talked with and coaches and things like that, these are such important concepts to really understand. And these are mental, social understandings. And when you understand these principles and you're able to act effectively, you will get better outcomes. You'll generate things that you want to generate in terms of opportunities, right? Because this is the thing that a lot of times when players feel like they don't have control of their career, this is the thing. You don't have control of your career because you're not doing things that are effective in your preparation so that you can get to the rink and show what you can do. And you don't have the habits. You're not being the type of person who deserves more opportunities. If you want to get more opportunities, you need to be the type of person that gets those opportunities. Where does that start? It starts internally. I don't know why I'm pointing at my face. It starts in your head. It starts in changing who you are, your software, your hardware, like the body. Software is in the mind, hardware is the body. And so you need to change those two things. You need to change who you are as a person, who you are as a player, and build out. And this is what I recommend for you guys after this video or this podcast, is go and write down, who do I want to be as a player? Write it down very clearly. And then what I want you to do is ask yourself, what are the things that player needs to do? And what I mean is go through all the details, whether it's before practice, when it's at the rink and what you do, how do you prepare, what do you do in practice, what do you do in all situations in practice, what do you do after practice on and off the ice, what do you do before games, during games, after games. Write down this player, what they do, and build that out. Look at what the best players do. This is what I've done fundamentally, is just look at what all the best players do at different leagues, on different teams, at the highest levels, especially at the NHL level. What do the superstar guys do, like McKinnon or Kucherov or Crosby or McDavid? Starting to look at what do these guys do that's different. And you'll start to realize that they're very intentional about how they craft themselves. They're very intentional about how they program what they do. If you look at like a Connor Bedard, the reason why he's going to continue to be successful, unless he has like a major injury or something, is because he's so intentional about doing so much effort. He's putting so much effort into the proper programming. He's building himself to build the right software, to build his hardware, and eating the right way, making sure he sleeps well. So when he gets to the rink, then it's just repetition of the thing that he's already pre-programmed. But if you come to the rink with shitty programming, then you're not going to be deepening the right patterns. And then you're going to get to games and not do the things you want. And then you'll be like, shit, why is this not happening? Well, you need to do the prep work before. And so fundamentally, that's what I want you to take away. And now we're going to go a lot deeper into this. There's going to be a lot more to this. But for now, I want to leave you with that concept. And so if you want help with this and you want to shortcut all this, you want to have in 8 weeks, you want to learn a full system, learn all the details to how to program yourself and go through a full identity shift, change all the patterns and change your software and have the software of elite players. So have the mental ability, the confidence, the ability to get into flow, the ability to trust yourself and act without hesitation, the hockey IQ, understanding how to make effective decisions. If you want help with building that whole system, then we have a whole system for that. There's links below. You can just click those. There's also a free program, and we're going to be upgrading the free program very soon. But that's how you approach this stuff. That's how you make a difference in your game. So if you have any questions, let me know. But I hope this gives you a good introduction into why, if you want to be a great shooter and you want to be somebody who scores and produces more offense, we'll start to think about who do I need to be in order to do that? And I tried to go more broad with this and look at this from a bigger perspective of just if you want to change anything about your game, it's about the prep work you do before you get to the rink. So if you want to be somebody who scores more goals and produces more offense, ask yourself, what do I need to do in order to make that happen? What are the details you need to develop? And once you develop those, I promise you, once you actually have a plan and you put it together, I promise you that you will start to see a shift in your outcome, in the outcomes you generate. But there's a quote from Joe Dispenza that I think is such a important quote that I'll leave you with, which is, your personality, and in this case your identity, creates your personal reality, which is your hockey career, results, performance. So it starts internal. It starts with the work you do internally, the software that you build, the hardware that you build in your body. And then the external world changes. And the external world changes is because you build yourself, you do different actions, coaches and teammates and scouts see those actions. They start to give you more opportunities. You get those opportunities and you're better, you have more ability, so you succeed in those opportunities, which means you get more opportunities. And when I say opportunities, what I mean is you get an expanded role. Because it really, you need to expand your identity and master your identity, which means maximizing the abilities that you have and expanding and developing more types of ability and more of a range of ability. You do that, and at the same time, what you need to be able to do is then start to give yourself more and more trust. Start to trust in what you can do. And so as you trust yourself and your coach gives you more trust, this is what it looks like to become more confident. This is what it looks like to expand your game. But it starts with really doing all of the preparation work. So I'm going to continue to hammer on that. Is the preparation work is really the programming work. The programming work is programming your software to tell your body what to do. And so it comes back to this concept of the driver. So if you want your driver to be more aggressive, well, then you have to train the driver to be more aggressive. And that it comes from programming the software of that driver's mind. You need to program your hockey mind, or just your mind, to do the things you want to do. Then it will tell the body what to do. And as long as the body has the physical ability and the mechanical ability to execute on what you tell it to do, then it will do it more often. But a lot of players, what they neglect is something in there. Maybe their hockey IQ is not as good as it needs to be. Maybe their confidence and they're not confident. They're hesitating. Well, that's holding them back. And so look at those pieces and just figure out what's constraining you. What is the constraint in your game right now? If it's the mental ability, you're not confident, you're not getting into flow or those things. If it's the hockey IQ, you're not seeing the ice well, you're not making the most effective decisions, you're not thinking like a world-class player, well then you should come to me. Just being real. So just click the link below if you want to check that stuff out. And again, there's free training. So if you just want to do free stuff, we have free stuff. If you want to apply to work with us and do more higher level paid stuff, you can click I think it's the top link, one of the links below. And I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions for me, just leave comments below and I'll make videos to go deeper on some of these topics. But I hope this helps you to start to make that shift. Subscribe to everything that I have here, because if you found this helpful, there's going to be a lot more of this coming. There's going to be tons more breakdowns and helping you clarify all these pieces. And again, the training is just going to go deeper with that. So feel free to go do that free training in the school group. I'll talk to you guys soon. Hope you have a great week, great month, and I will talk to you very, very soon.